All right, let's begin this bulletin with a breaking news development coming in connection with the ongoing situation in the Middle East, which is that Italy has called for G7 leaders meeting to discuss the crisis panning out in the larger Middle East or West Asia region. And remember, Italy happens to be the current president of the group of seven, the G7 group of advanced countries. And Italy now calling for a G7 meeting as tensions simmer between Israel and Iran, with the possibility of Israel retaliating directly to the missile attack that has been carried out by Iran last night, which saw 180 plus missiles, the intercontinental ballistic missiles, or in fact IRBMs, being launched by Iran right inside the Israeli territory. And Giorgia Meloni now calling for a group of seven meeting, possibly a virtual meeting, and they want to discuss the Middle East crisis. Remember, we have seen a build-up happening subsequent to Israel eliminating Hezbollah chief Hassan Nasrallah last week, and 3 weeks before that, a month before that, the elimination of Ismail Haniyeh, who was effectively the military chief of Hamas right inside Tehran. We have Yaakov Katz, journalist, joining us live from Jerusalem, in fact. And Yaakov, is the situation now under control? All account taken of what kind of damage has been caused by the Iranian missile strikes last evening, even as we hear that Italy has called for a G7 discussion on the Middle East crisis?
The situation right now is quiet, but of course tense, since the rocket attack and the 180 missiles were fired by Iran, into Israel late last night. Israel has been saying that it will retaliate, it will respond, it will take and choose the time for when that will be the right move for it. But I think that we should expect for there to be a response and some sort of consequence for what Iran did, because it can't be allowed to get away with this type of action. It can't be allowed to continue to strike at Israel and other countries in the Middle East with impunity.
All right, and Yaakov, stay with us. In fact, there's another breaking news development coming in connection with this evolving situation. More red alerts now in Israel's Western Galilee. Obviously, this must be in response to a security situation panning out with the security agencies. They're assessing. Let's continue to stay with Yaakov. Yaakov, what's really happened in Western Galilee for a red alert to be issued there?
Yeah, I mean, the Galilee is where Hezbollah has, for the most part, been firing its rockets. It's that area that about 70,000 of Israelis have been evacuated and no longer can live there because of the threat from Hezbollah rockets. So this is just more of that type of action that we've been seeing from Hezbollah as well as from Iran in the last year since October 7. So that's probably what's happening in the Western Galilee, but there's fighting in Lebanon, right? The Israeli forces are operating in the south. They're trying to clear out that area of Hezbollah forces and Hezbollah weapons. We saw yesterday the amount of just weaponry that Hezbollah had amassed along the border in tunnels that go underneath the border and try to cross into Israel. Yep. This is a severe situation that has to be dealt with.
Yaakov, also interesting that while the attack last evening has happened from Iran, directly by Iran, the Israeli Defense Forces continue to focus on Operation Northern Arrows, continue to focus on southern Lebanon, and continue to focus on Hezbollah. Is there a long-term plan for Iran, like Israel is calibrating when to respond or not responding, because maybe the damage was not much?
I don't think it's a question of damage, right? I think it's more of a question of policy and what do you want to achieve, right? If we think about it, and you're making a very good point, is that Israel for the last year has been playing what we would call in America a game of whack-a-mole, where, you see one bad guy, you hit him on the head, another bad guy, you hit him on the head, but you're not dealing with the real source and the foundation and the root problem, which is Iran. Iran is the state sponsor of all of these different terrorist organizations. They supplied them with weapons. That's how the Houthis, a little terrorist group in Yemen, have long-range ballistic missiles that can fly thousands of kilometers away. How has Hezbollah amassed a larger rocket and missile arsenal than 90% of the world? How has Hamas been able to prepare for the invasion that it launched on October 7th if it had not been for the help of Iran? So Iran is the one who is behind it all, and it is Iran that needs to be made to pay a price. Now, can Israel do that alone? We will have to wait to see what Israel's capabilities are. But I think this is a global problem. It is a problem that we need leadership from the United States, from Europe, from the G7, from India. Everyone needs to help to crack down on the Iranians and make sure that they understand this cannot continue.
Yeah, so Jacob, stay with us. Of course, that's Israeli narrative that whatever is happening in the Middle East is also for the world to get in. But how much the world can get involved is a question that I would want to ask. Just stay with us. I'm coming to you in a bit. There is, as Israel continues with its ground offensive in southern Lebanon, the caretaker Prime Minister says that the Lebanese government is ready to fully implement the 2006 UN resolution that had aimed to end Hezbollah's armed presence south of the Litani River. Let's understand what's this UN resolution 1701 and this blue line and the Litani River. Here's an explainer by Samiksha.
This is with reference to the Litani River significance. It was noted in 2006 when a UNSC resolution was passed in which it was agreed upon that there's going to be a buffer zone along the Litani River side. This is the Litani River and this is the buffer zone that was created, and it was agreed upon that neither the Hezbollah group nor the Israeli forces will cross over from here. So the Litani River, which served as a mark which will not be crossed over either by the Lebanon side or by the Israeli forces. But that being said, since 2006, we've seen how there's been clear violation both by the Israeli forces and the Hezbollah group. And that being said, it's the Hezbollah group that has entered the northern Lebanon border, targeting the civilians, something which we've even seen since the October 7th attack by Hamas that was aided by the Hezbollah group, of course. So yes, the caretaker Prime Minister of Lebanon now says that if there's going to be a pullback by the Israeli forces from the buffer zone, there's going to be action on part of Lebanon forces as well. In fact, the Lebanon Prime Minister even said that they will adhere to the UNSC resolution by deploying not just the Lebanese army, but even the United Nations force. Let's also tell you about the significance of the Litani River, which serves as that mark the division between the Hezbollah group and the Israeli forces. It is a key maker in international agreement, like we told you. So that's the 2006 UNSC resolution that you're talking about. The buffer zone between Hezbollah and Israel. This is a buffer zone which has long been violated both by the Hezbollah group and the Israeli forces. So yes, that buffer zone, which the caretaker Prime Minister says that Lebanese army will adhere to, and they will be ensuring that there's no violation. Agreement has frayed since October 7th attacks. So reference to the October 7th attacks in which civilians were targeted in the Israeli territory, in which more than 1,200 civilians lost their lives. The agreement, as we told you, frayed that October 7th, since October 7 attacks. And patrolling by UN and Lebanese army troops that should have happened, but did not happen. So the Lebanese caretaker Prime Minister says that if there is going to be a pullback by the Israeli forces from the northern Lebanon region, they will ensure that there is patrolling by the United Nations Interim Force and the Lebanese troops. So the Litani River, which has been the epicenter of the conflict between Hezbollah and the Israeli forces, Israel-Lebanon border region that resembles the war zone. So this is the area that has essentially turned into a war zone, with both sides crossing to each other's territory and the war only escalating. In fact, let's also tell you that while those missiles were aimed towards Israel, the latter continues with its ground incursion in in Lebanon